Today's video is brought to you by Audible. Get your free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/MagzTV or click the link in the video description below. Dobraya Utra, comrades, and welcome back to Cold Waters, and welcome aboard the Kilo class diesel electric attack submarine. Yes, once again we're delving back into the playable subs and more mod available on subsim.com, and we are going to take out this extremely interesting little boat. So, diesel electric submarine. This is pretty old tech, isn't it? I mean, why not drive out a nuclear boat? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that, and first things first, no, it's not old tech. The Kilo class first went into service in 1980. It's actually one of the newest boats available to the Soviet forces in cold waters, and it's also one of the most dangerous boats floating around. Following World War II, nuclear boats became the development focus for the Soviet Union and for the United States and NATO, and they were incredibly powerful. Overall, they were quieter than their diesel electric counterparts. They were better designed, they had longer range, they could stay submerged for longer periods of time. But this was largely due to the limitation, I'll cavitate a little bit there, largely due to the limitations of battery design at the time. Nuclear boats have their own problems when it comes to being silent. A nuclear reactor is essentially a giant water pump. The reactor itself heats water, which turns to steam, which drives a massive turbine blade, which generates electricity. The cooling for the reactor is also water that is pumped around the reactor in order to draw heat away from it so it doesn't overheat, which requires massive impellers to push that water, which again generate noise, just like the turbine does inside the reactor. All nuclear submarines have a certain level of ambient noise that they generate that is unavoidable because of the way they operate. A battery, on the other hand, does not. Now, I'm just going to bring the Kilo to the surface here, and we're going to pop the periscope because I want to have a look around exactly what's going on. Now, the latest version of the mod that I'm running actually puts in a basic Soviet campaign and puts in US naval forces on the surface. These are largely reskinned and renamed versions of Soviet boats because currently it's impossible to put new models into the game, but it is possible to create new units. These units just have to use the existing models but different skins. Now, scope's a wash, so we're at 47 feet at the moment. I'm gonna have to bring this up a little bit more. Oops, no, I don't want the radar, put the radar away, I want the ESM mast. Apparently the Kilo doesn't have ESM on the periscope, which it should, I think. Yeah, the ESM mast does appear to be up. That may be a small bug. I'm not getting ESM at the moment. That's not good. Yeah, the ESM mast, for those that are wondering, allows me to detect radar on the surface without actually transmitting radar. The periscope should have ESM itself, and the ESM mast has a better version of it that you can also deploy on its own. It should give me a sort of a graph to the left hand side that tells me exactly how strong the radar signals are. Alright, 33 feet is better. We've got target number 1, and now we've got ESM strength 7. Okay, there is no way known that they do not know I'm here at this point unless they're blind, but that's fine. I'm not concerned. This thing is nearly silent, but I'll go more into the Kilo in just a moment. Just trying to ID. And there's an active ping. We'll pull the periscopes and everything back down, and we'll get a little bit of water above us. Start slowly bringing it down. We got all the contacts except one, so it looks like 1 escort ship, 3 transports, 1 tanker, 1 small oiler, and a cargo ship, and we have contact 5, which we do not have on sonar at this point, but it seems to be the one that's hitting us with active sonar, so I'm guessing that that is also a second escort. And let's go Nox class for the escort. So, what we're going to do torpedo 1 away. Fire torpedo 2. Alright, and you know what? They know exactly where we are, so screw it. Let's send... Actually, you know what? Let's launch our anti-ship missile a little bit further back. If we're lucky, it'll pick up the ship that we haven't detected. And on that angle, if it doesn't, it should detect one of the 3 ships that we just fired torpedoes at and take out one of them. I think we'll follow this one for the ride. I do love watching these things do their thing. And the good part is we've got contacts with them all, so we should see the missile impact. Still following its path, and there we go, it's activated, it's detected a target. That does not look like a warship. No, that looks like a tanker. Ooh, he's gonna feel that one in the morning. Oh, and that one's coming for me, okay. Keep it at 5 knots, 20 down. Torpedoes have been cut loose, so we don't have to worry about those. They will just do their thing. Moss to the rear. Well, it's not actually a Moss, it's the Soviet equivalent. I cannot actually remember the name of it off the top of my head. And we're just going to get a little bit of water above the con tower. And we'll see exactly where this missile they just fired at us actually comes to land. Anyways, as I was saying, there are disadvantages to a nuclear submarine. No matter how well you design them, they are going to have a certain level of ambient noise. Their biggest advantages are their range and their fuel loading. You know, they can travel for anywhere that they want to go. The fuel load in your average nuclear submarine lasts about 4 years, so once every 4 years it needs to be refueled. There are exceptions to that rule, such as the rather unique reactor in the Alpha. Due to the difficulties that would come with refueling that reactor, they put 15 years worth of fuel in it instead, so they didn't have to worry about it. But for the most part, these things can go pretty much wherever the hell they like, so long as they have food and supplies for the crew available on board. Diesel electrics are far more restrained in how far they can travel. This makes them less useful for long-range missions, say from the Soviet Union to the United States. And there is our torpedo from our fired missile, and that is not even ballpark close to where I actually am. And here you're starting to see one of the advantages of a diesel electric, like the Kilo class, a modern diesel electric. They detected the anti-ship missile launch, they saw the smoke plume, they detected the transients from the torpedoes, but they could not get an accurate location on where they were coming from in relation to my submarine, so they fired the missile at best guess. They cannot see me right now. I am completely invisible to them, even though I've just hit one of their ships with a missile. So all I've got to do is stay far enough away from that thing that I don't get into its search cone, and we should be perfectly fine. In fact, I should be able to just give it a little bit of right-hand rudder and bring it back to the surface and get ready to start picking out my next targets. So anyways, as I was saying, the second advantage that a nuclear boat has is, well, the nuclear reactor itself. It's not just range, it's power generation. Nuclear boats are generally faster than modern diesel electrics, and this is because the nuclear reactor generates so much electricity that they can afford to run some really big thumping electric engines on board. These generate massive amounts of power, can drive massive impellers, and get these boats really hauling ass. Boats such as the Alpha, over 40 knots submerged. Diesel electrics tend to be a little bit slower, as, well, they have to be a little bit more economical with their electric engines. But because they're not travelling so far, they don't necessarily need the speed, so it's not really so much of an issue. And the last advantage is obviously the stay down time, how long the boat can stay submerged. Because the nuclear reactor is capable of driving all of the components constantly inside of the submarine without the need to come up for air at all. In fact, it's even capable of generating its own air inside of the submarine out of the surrounding ocean in order to keep the crew breathing. They can stay down for pretty close to as long as they like. There are some limitations, but that depends boat to boat. Diesel electrics have to come to the surface every now and again and run that diesel engine in order to be able to recharge the batteries. However, this is where things start to change. While boats in World War II, the diesel electrics that are most commonly known, could only stay down for a few hours before they had to get back to the surface and had to run that diesel in order to get everything else operating, and maybe outwards of a day or a little bit more if they were really economical with their power, boats like the Kilo can stay down for over a month without actually having to surface. Every other advantage that people would generally attribute to a nuclear submarine because it's a nuclear submarine actually has nothing to do with that reactor. It comes down to hull design. Nuclear submarines are generally quieter than your old World War II boats, not because they're nuclear powered, but because they have better designed hulls and they have better designed props that generate less noise. Their internals are designed to be quieter overall. Every single one of those advantages can be transferred to a non-nuclear design, and that's what the modern diesel electrics are all about. All the advanced sonar systems, all the advanced weapon systems, all the advanced hull design, everything that you would take from the nuclear boat's development over the last 40 years, but take away the reactor so you make less noise. So once again, we're coming back to the surface. We're just sitting on 5 degrees plane. I'm going to try and bring it up to about 35 feet. Because obviously that's where we were getting much better views out of the periscope, and have a little bit of a look around. I just want to confirm the locations of everything that we've seen so far. Now, it may look, comparison to some of the other boats that I've driven in this series so far, like the Kilo can't see as well, which is why I'm using the periscope, and this is most certainly true. This is a Kilo 1. It doesn't have a towed sonar array, so I'm completely reliant on just the passive sensors that are inside of the submarine itself. And oh shit. Alright, radar signal is at max level. He knows exactly where I am. Ready, tube 1. Catch. Alright, torpedoes away. While I'm up here, can I find... what have we got there? And that looks like our missing contact. Alright, periscope down. And let's dive this away. Torpedo's about to go active. The boat's definitely heard the transient. It's starting to turn away from the torpedo. Torpedo is live and engaged with target. That thing was almost close enough to be able to start deploying its close-range anti-submarine weaponry then. In fact, I think it is actually close enough. If we didn't turn it away, it probably would have smacked us on the head. To be clear, I don't think it actually knew we were there, otherwise it would have already have nuked us. I suspect it was just heading towards the last location that we surfaced, because we've been travelling in pretty much a straight line. Right, torpedo is tracking. And right up the tailpipe. That is one Nox class escort down. So anyways, as I was saying, there are two versions of the Kilo. The first version that was laid down did not contain a passive sonar array, so it's only got what it's got on board. Soviet passive sonar is not as good as American passive sonar, so there is a bit of a technological disadvantage there. But really the main problem is the lack of towed sonar, which was available in the second type of the Kilo class. However, we'll talk about that in a moment. First things first, I do have a bearing now on that second Nox, so... oh, and he is just outside of minimum range, so... about there. From Russia with love, comrade. In case you're wondering, yes, this is on elite difficulty level, and the reason why this is looking so easy, if you look at the sonar screen on the right hand side at the bottom where it says contact, it's got -2, -16, -6. That's telling me that that ship cannot see me on active, passive or towed sonar at this point. It does no idea where I am, and now it never will know where I am, because it couldn't handle my Russian love missile. So, with the escorts dealt with, that leaves a crippled and 2 undamaged cargo ships, which are our primary targets. So at this point, I don't care if I cavitate. Actually, I take it back. It looks like the tanker that we hit actually sunk. Yes, that must be its wreck in the background. I only just noticed that. Okay, so we have just the cargo ship and the oiler to take out. And these guys are running at flank speed as fast as they possibly can. And here's one of the drawbacks of, the diesel-electric submarine. They're not all that fast. Well, I should probably qualify that. They're not slow either, but you're only looking at about 23 knots at flank speed. So, in comparison to your big nuclears, they're not as quick, which does mean that there is some surface shipping if they do get a good run on you and they keep it at flank speed that you will have trouble catching. So we take it down to depth so we stop cavitating, although now I think about it, I'm not entirely sure why. It's not like it really matters if these two cargo ships hear me coming, but we can keep it at flank speed and head towards our targets. And that sounded strangely like a helicopter. No, the cargo ships don't have them, and we've got nothing else detected. I suspect that's probably a helicopter from one of the Noxes that was flying about that no longer has a landing pad. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of fancy editing here. We're using a bit of time acceleration. We've been following these boats for about 7 or 8 minutes at this point, and we're just not closing the gap fast enough. And at flank speed, I can't hear them clearly enough on passive. So we're going to come back to the surface. I'm going to pick them up on periscope, and we're going to see exactly how far we are away and make a decision on exactly what we're going to do about them. Once we've got them, we know exactly where they are. Okay. And we have periscope up. And there is one. Well, that's disappeared halfway off the map. Where's the other one gone? The problem is the storm's also helping cloak them as well at this point, because they're getting far enough away that I can't hear them even when I'm running it silent. And they're both... God damn it. What are they running at? Speed. They're running at 14 knots. I can only do 23. The closing time is just way too slow. I think I'm going to have to do some funky editing in this video. I've been following these guys for about another 5 minutes at this point. I was cruising along and without cavitating, they're just actually pulling away. So we've loaded up 2 more anti-ship missiles. Shoot 2 away and shoot 3 away. Let's see them outrun these. So yes, this is one of the drawbacks for the Kilo as it currently stands in cold waters. The version that we have doesn't have the towed sonar array. The Kilo 2, the second version of the Kilo, does have the towed sonar, and this was a result of the Soviets realizing that, well, these boats are good for more than just patrolling coastlines and shores and escorting landing craft, taking out coastal shipping. In fact, providing they're operating within the boundaries of the Norwegian Sea and sort of the area around Northern Europe where, well, let's face it, if the Cold War actually did go hot, would be the primary battlefield, these things would be quite lethal, but they needed to be able to hear. And we're just going to dive away at this point and wait for the pops. There goes number 1. And should be any time now. And there we go. Impact 2. And that is the end of the American fleet. Sorry, Norway, no supplies for you. So, as was the request from the last video, the after-action report. We got 2 Nox-class frigates, a US tanker, a US cargo ship, and a small fleet oiler. Not a bad haul for our first run out in the Kilo. So anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you very much for watching. As always, remember to check out the links in the video description below to Audible, my sponsor for the channel. They're the best source for audiobooks online with over 180,000 titles to choose from, including most of the Tom Clancy series, which obviously inspires a lot of the way that I do these videos. And of course, if you would like to help support the channel directly, my Patreon is in the video description down below as well. Anyways, ladies and gents, until next time, click that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, dive smart, dive safe, and das vidanya.